सेवा पाबो हे अभिलाषी हे तुम्हार शरण रोय तारा वंश पूर्ण हो कृपा करी करो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरे अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियोवान नयने हृगो सदा युगल रूप राशि हे निवेदन धरो सखीरनुगत करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासे कोय नमो राहो श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदाय भासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदाय भासी Nani kani cha papani brahma ityadikani cha tani tani Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Vrindayi Tusadevya Priya Kesha Vasudeva Krishna Vati Vasudeva Satyavate Namo Vrindayi Tusadevya Priya Kesha Vasudeva Krishna Vati Vasudeva Satyavate Namo Vrindayi Tusadevya Priya Kesha Krishna Vati Vasudeva Satyavate Book Tulsi Maharani Yes. This RNA card was 167. As Ram, Sita and Lakshman approached the Dankaranya forest, they beheld a delightful cluster of cottages inhabited by rishis, surrounded by towering trees laden with fruits and flowers, and resounding with the singing of birds and chanting of Vedic mantras. The ashram sanctified the hearts of all who beheld it. Kush grass and garments made of tree bark were spread everywhere, and deer and other wild animals roam about freely without fear. Ram and Lakshman loosened the strings on their bows and entered the hermitage. The rishis greeted them pleasantly and gave them a suitable grass hut to reside in. Then, after passing the night, Ram took his leave from the sages and ventured even deeper into the forest, with Sita walking in the middle and Lakshmana behind. As they walked along, a gigantic, hideous Rakshas suddenly appeared before them. Clad in a blood-stained tiger skin, he had sunken eyes, long sharp teeth, and a jagged jaw, and a large round protruding belly. From his spear dangled the heads of 3 lions, 4 tigers, 2 bulls, 10 spotted deer, and an elephant. all dripping with blood. Appearing like death personified, the horrible monster roared ferociously and lunged forward, catching hold of Sita. Then, after quickly retreating some distance, the Rakshasa again roared loudly, I shall take this woman for my wife and drink the blood of you other two. At this, Ram explained, Alas, seeing Sita being touched by another is more painful for me to bear than the death of my father. Lakshmana, however, was in no mood for such talk. He reapproached Ram, saying, How can you merely stand there lamenting? Watch me as I kill this Rakshas and vent the anger I have held toward Bharata for so long. The Rakshas called out, Who are you intruding into my forest? Ram replied, We are two Kshatriyas. Why do you dare obstruct us like this, carrying off my wife? To this the Rakshasa said, My name is Virad. I am the son of Java by his second wife Shatadhra. Shataharda. In reward for my severe austerities, Lord Brahma benedicted me to become immune from all weapons. Therefore, I advise you to run away while you can and leave this lovely woman for me. Otherwise, I will be forced to kill you. At that, Ram and Lakshman quickly took up their swords and rushed at the Rakshasa. However, even though they severely hacked his body, the wounded Rakshasa picked up Ram and Lakshman in his arms and began carrying them away. Deep into the forest, upon seeing this, Sita cried out piteously, O Rakshasa, please leave these two aside and take me instead. Hearing this, Ram and Lakshman decided to kill Virada at once. Exhibiting superhuman prowess, Ram broke off the Raksasa's right arm while Lakshmana wrenched off his left. As Virada fell to the ground, bereft of his senses, Ram and Lakshman continued to beat him with their fists. However, in spite of being smashed and kicked, the Rakshasas did not die. Seeing this, Ram told Lakshman, Since this demon cannot be slain in battle, let us bury him alive. Quickly dig a pit while I guard him. As Lakshman dug, Virada regained consciousness and said to Ram, I now recognize you. In truth, I am the Gandharva Tumburu. Because of lusting after the Apsara, Rambha, I was cursed by Kuvera to become a Rakshasa until a time that I would be delivered by you. Please bury me in this hole to release me from my curse. Thereafter, please go to meet the great Rishi Sarabhanga, who resides 12 miles from here. When you see him, he will give you some very beneficial advice. Lakshman continued digging while Ram kept his foot on the Raksasa's neck. Then, when Lakshman had finished, Ram threw the screaming demon deep into the hole and quickly covered him up with large stones. In this way, Tamburu gave up his Rakshasa body and ascended to the heaven, relieved of his curse. Formerly, even great demons like Virada were intelligent enough to understand that they were not the body but eternal spirit souls transmigrating from one body to another. Today, due to the influence of the age of Kali, even great scholars and religions cannot understand this truth. Even in this age, people are short lived, unintelligent, unfortunate, and not philosophically inclined. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya had shown his special mercy by delivering the easiest and most sublime method of self-realization, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, by which one immediately contacts the Lord and qualifies himself to ascend the spiritual world and live in eternal bliss with him. Ram, Lakshman, and Sita set out to see the great sage Sarabhanga. As they approached the Rishi ashram, they were amazed to see King Indra seated upon a celestial chariot whose wheels did not touch the ground. Indra was accompanied by other demigods and was conversing with Sarabhanga, while another celestial chariot drawn by greenhouses waited in the sky. However, when Indra saw Ram approaching, he told the other demigods, I do not want the Lord to see me yet, but only after he kills Ravana. Indra ascended to the sky on his chariot drawn by 1,000 horses. Having witnessed this wonder, Sita, Ram, and Lakshmana quickly went to and touched the Sarabhanga's feet. Then, after being welcomed by the Rishi, Ram said, O madness of sages, if you are able to discuss the matter, please tell us the purpose of Indra's visit. Sarabhanga replied, Indra came here to take me to Brahmaloka, the destination I have earned by my performance of Siva penances. However, I told the King of Heaven that before departing from this world, I wanted to see you, knowing you were nearby. Ram requested Sarabhanga to designate a place for him to dwell during the period of his exile. The Rishi replied, O Lord, you should approach the great sage Sutikshana. He will provide you with a suitable residence in the most pleasant portion of the forest. O Ram, as for myself, I have one request I beg you to fulfill. The time has come for me to quit my body. Therefore, I humbly request that I may do so in your presence. Saying this, Sarvanga built a fire, and when he poured ghee upon it, the fire blazed brightly. Then, while chanting mantras, the rishi entered the fire, burning his body to ashes. Immediately afterwards, Sarabhanga rose from the fire in a youthful, dazzling, effulgent body. He then ascended to Brahmaloka and was welcomed by its inhabitants. Thereafter, the assembled rishis approached Ram and petitioned, Many of us who live in this forest are being mercilessly killed by the Rakshasas. You may come and see the dead body that are still lying about here and there. O Rama, we humbly request you that you give us protection. Ram assured the rishis, as a Kshatriya, I am your servant. Thus, for your sake, I will kill the Rakshasas. Accompanied by the sages, Ram proceeded to the ashrama of Sutikshana. After receiving Ram's obeisances, the rishi said, I have been waiting for your visit. O descendant in the dynasty of Raghu, before ascending to Brahmaloka, King Indra came here and informed me of your imminent arrival. When Ram asked the rishi to designate a place for him to reside, the rishi offered him the use of his own cottage. Ram refused, however, saying, if we were to remain here by killing the deer, we would become the cause of your unhappiness. Ram, Sita and Lakshmana spent the night at Sutikshana ashram. The next morning, Ram took his leave. Bowing before the great sage, Sutikshana embraced Ram, inviting him to return to his ashram after visiting the different hermitages in the Dantakaranya forest. Later that day, hoping to tactfully impart some advice to Ram, Sita said, My dear husband, due to the powerful influence of material nature, it is possible even for a great and noble man to gradually become degraded. Therefore, one should always be very careful to control his mind and senses, avoiding the addictions that result from material desire. There are three sinful activities that should especially be avoided: false speech, sexual relations with another's wife, and cruelty toward those who are not inimical. In your character, there is no trace of the first two faults, for you have never uttered a lie, nor could you think of lusting after another man's wife. However, I see that you take the lives of many innocent animals. Thus, I can understand that there is still the contamination of enmity in you. I feel very unhappy when I see how the poor animals are being needlessly killed. My dear Ram, simply by carrying a bow in your hands, you increase the killing propensity, just as putting fuel too near a fire makes it blaze higher. Please listen as I relate a story in this connection. Once there was a great rishi who performed such powerful austerities that King Indra became afraid of being overthrown. With a desire to obstruct the rishi's advancement, King Indra came before him in the guise of a warrior. Indra handed the Brahmana a sword and requested, Please keep this for me very carefully until I return it. The rishi consented, and thereafter remaining true to his vow, he always kept the sword with him, even when he went into the forest to collect fruits and roots. And as a result, the rishi's mind gradually became tinged with the desire for cruelty. He gradually gave up his execution of austerity in exchange for a life of violence. In this way, the rishi became degraded and attained a hellish destination after death. Therefore, my dear husband, since that Brahmana was vanquished simply by the association of Indra's sword, I request that you keep your bow in hand only to kill the Rakshasas that are harassing the rishis. Please do not kill even the innocent Rakshasas, what to speak of other creatures. Although I know it is not my position to instruct you, I pray that you give my words careful thought. Afterwards, please do what you think is best. Ram replied, Dear Sita, I certainly appreciate your words, which are full of wisdom. I know that it is only because you love me that you have thus advised me, thinking only of my welfare. Unless one is dear, he is never given such frank counsel. O daughter of Janaka, the rishis could easily kill the Rakshasas themselves. However, they do not do so, for it would diminish their stock of acquired ascetic merit. For this reason, I have promised to kill all the Rakshasas in the Dandkaranya forest. Even if I were to somehow renounce you or Lakshmana, I could never give up a promise to the Brahmanas. Ram, Sita and Lakshman arrived at a large beautiful lake. As they drew near, they heard the sound of singing, seeming to come from somewhere within the lake waters. However, no one could be seen there. At that time, a rishi named Dharma happened by, and Ram asked him about the mysterious singing. This lake, the rishi began, is known as Panchashapsara and was originally created by the sage Mandakarni with his mystic powers. Once Mandakarni Rishi performed austerities on the shore of this lake for 10,000 years, subsiding subsisting only on air. The demigod became very fearful, thinking the rishi was desirous of occupying one of their posts. Thus they recruited 5 apsaras to divert Mandkarani from his austerities. The rishi indeed became captivated by the woman and married them all. After this, the rishi created a secret house within the water and retired there to reside with his wives. The sound you are hearing is the music of the Apsaras. Even today, they constantly serve the rishi who has regained his youth by utilizing his ascetic prowess. Ram, Sita, and Lakshman went on, wandering from ashram to ashram within the Dandkaranya forest. They would stay at each hermitage for a week, a month or longer, sometimes even a year. In this way, 10 years of Ram's exile passed comfortably and contentedly. After this time, 3 wanderers returned to hermitage of Sutikshana to reside. While one day conversing with Sutikshana, Ram said, I have heard that great sage Agastya lives somewhere in the Dandkaranya, but I could not find him within the vast forest. I would like to offer my respects to the Rishi and receive his blessings. Please direct me to his ashrama. After taking direction from Sutikshana, Ram departed, accompanied by Sita and Lakshmana. Then, as they came to the vicinity of Agastya Rishi's ashrama, Ram narrated the following history. Once there were 2 Rakshasa brothers named Vatapi and Ilvala. Ilvala would take the form of a Brahmana, and speaking in Sanskrit, he would invite some real Brahmanas to a memorial ceremony. Before the arrival of the Brahmanas, Ivalva would have Vatapi take the form of a ram. Then, after cooking his brother, Ivala would feed him to the invited Brahmanas. When Vatapi thus entered the Brahmana's stomach, Ivala would loudly call, "Oh my brother, please come out now." Being summoned, Vatapi would tear open the Brahmana's stomachs and come out, bleating like a ram. In this way, the two Rakshasas killed thousands of Brahmanas. Finally, at the request of the demigods, Agastya Muni went there as an invited guest. Agastya ate Vatapi in the form of a ram. But then, when Ivalu called for his brother, the rishi informed him, "I have already digested Vatapi and sent him to the abode of Yamaraj." When Ilvala heard this, he tried to attack Agastya in a fit of rage. However, the rishi burned him to ashes with his angerous glance. Thereafter, because the Rakshasas feared Agastya Muni, his ashrama remained free from attack. When Ram entered Agastya Rishi's ashrama, sitting places were prepared and they were provided with a suitable welcome. After finishing their meal, Agastya presented Ram with the bow of Vishnu that had been constructed by Vishwakarma, along with his two inexhaustible quivers from Lord Indra, an infallible arrow, and a gold inlaid sword from the Lord Brahma. Then turning to Sita, Agastya praised her, saying, "You have earned eternal glory by voluntarily accepting such hardship for the sake of your husband. This is especially meritorious, since it has been the nature of woman since the dawn of creation to love a man only for as long as he is prosperous." Thereafter, Ram asked Agastya to suggest a place for his residence. After some contemplation, the rishi recommended he go to Panchavati, 16 miles away near the bank of the river Godavari. Then, just as before Ram's departure, Agastya confided, "I already know about your entire life by dint of yogic perception, which has been enhanced by my love for you." After leaving the Rishi's ashrama, traveling on the way to Panchavati, Ram, Sita, and Lakshmana came upon Jatayu, the gigantic king of the vultures. Thinking at first that he may be a Rakshasa, Ram inquired about his identity. With mild words, Jatayu replied, "My dear child, I was a good friend of your father. Long ago, Kashyapa married 8 daughters of Daksha. From Vinita, Aruna was born, and from Tamasa, Shyani took birth. I am the son of Aruna and his wife Shyani, and my name is Jatayu. My dear Ram, please accept me as your sincere servant. Since there are many fierce Rakshasas inhabiting this forest, whenever you and Lakshman leave your cottage, I will watch over Sita." Because of Jatayu's previous relationship with his father, Ram respectfully bowed to Jatayu. The vulture king then accompanied them to Panchavati, keeping a watchful eye the entire time. Arriving at Panchavati, Ram selected a suitable site for building their cottage, saying it will be good to make our residence at a site near a lake or river, for water and greenery together create the ideal scenic beauty. Ram selected a site near the banks of the Godavari and an adjacent lake beautifully adorned with pink and blue lotuses. The land there was flat, giving an unobstructed view of the entire area. The cries of swans and waterfowl could be heard from the river, along with those of peacocks echoing from caves of the nearby hills. After building a suitable cottage there, they consecrated it with flower offerings, and Ram happily entered it. As winter gradually set in, the morning sunshine became pleasing to the sense of touch. One morning, just after Ram and Lakshman had returned from bathing in the river and were conversing about their religious duty, a Rakshasi happened on the scene. Upon seeing Ram, Her heart immediately became saturated with love. With his glowing dark greenish blue complexion and lotus petal eyes, Ram appeared to be the god of love himself in human form. The Rakshasi, however, had an extremely ugly face, a large protruding belly, withered breast, deformed eyes, and a copper colored hair. Whereas Ram's body was youthful and well proportioned, muscular, and bearing all the signs of royalty. The Rakshasi's body was quite hideous and on the brink of the middle age. Although she could change her form at will, she became so passionate upon seeing Ram that she forgot to change her revolting appearance. She approached Ram, saying, "My dear handsome one, please tell me who you are and why you have come to the forest dressed like a hermit. Indeed, you are dressed in the garb of an ascetic and are wearing braided locks of hair. Yet you are wielding a bow and keeping a woman. Why have you come to this Rakshas infested region? Please tell me who you are, and I will fulfill all your desires." In reply, Ram briefly explained the incidents leading to his exile. He then asked the Rakshasi who she was. The love-stricken demoness replied, "Here is the real truth, O lotus-eyed one. My name is Nupnakha, the sister of Ravana, Kumkarana, Vibhishana, Khara, and Dushasana. I live in this forest and strike fear into the hearts of all creatures, although my brothers are powerful, I surpass them all. I must frankly say, I have become overwhelmed with love for you. My mind is made up to have you for my husband. Give up your ugly, deformed wife, for she is not worthy of a great hero like yourself. I am very powerful and can travel at will. Thus, I am suitable partner for you. First, though, I will devour the flat-bellied Sita and your brother Lakshmana. Then we will be free to reveal together in the hills and valleys of the beautiful Dandkaranya forest." As the Rakshasi looked upon him with love-filled eyes, Ram laughed heartily at her proposal. Ram then jokingly said, "I am already a married man, and certainly a young and beautiful girl like you could not tolerate living with a co-wife. My brother, however, who is ever greater hero than myself, is without a wife. Therefore, I suggest that you marry him." Snubnakha took Ram's word seriously and left his side to face Lakshmana. Saturated with lusty desires, she said, "My dear handsome hero, you are indeed even more powerful and attractive than your brother. Therefore, I consider you to be even more suitable for me. Come, make me your wife, and we shall roam together through the forest, enjoying conjugal bliss." Lakshman smilingly replied, "O soft-skinned and lovely-limbed lady, you should know that I am simply the servant of my elder brother. Thus, if you were to marry me, it would mean that you would be no better than his maidservant. I think you would be much better off by becoming Ram's second wife, for in time he will surely discard the aging and misshapen Sita and accept you alone. You have such a lovely face, always adorned with sweet smiles. Your ample breast, slender waist, and wide hips will make a man forget all other women. Who could resist you? Marry Ram, and he will cast aside his ugly wife." Snubnakha was too simple-minded to understand that Ram and Lakshman were joking with her. Thus she again turned to Ram, saying, "You are overly attached to the ugly Sita. Thus I will eat her up at once and forcibly take you as my husband." Saying this, Snubnakha rushed at Sita. However, Ram checked her, telling Lakshman, "You should not joke with this Rakshasi in a way that endangers Sita. Now disfigure her in a way that will teach her a lesson." Upon Ram's order, Lakshman drew his sword, swiftly slicing off Snubnakha's nose and ears as his elder brother looked on. Snubnakha screamed out in agony. Bleeding profusely, she fled into the forest. She quickly went to the Janasthana where her brother Khara lived along with many other Rakshasas. Frightened and smeared with blood, Shunbhaka threw herself at her brother's feet. Weeping bitterly, then as Khara looked on, his sister incoherently tried to explain what had happened. Seeing his sister's disfigurement, Khara's heart became filled with horror and rage. Weeping like a trampled snake, Khara said, "Oh sister, please get up and calm yourself. Compose yourself so you can clearly tell me what has happened to you. Who has dared to injure you? Does he not realize that he has drunk poison by doing this? There is not a demigod, demon, Gandharva, or Rishi who can harm you and escape with his life. Pound out the culprit, and I shall drink his blood with my sharp arrows." Sobbing bitterly, Shnupraka replied, "There are two brothers named Ram and Lakshman staying nearby in the Dankaranya forest. I do not know whether they are demigods or demons. However, since they have mutilated my face, I will only become satisfied after drinking their blood." Khara then called for 14 of the most powerful Rakshasas and sent them out with Shubhaka to kill Ram, Lakshman and Sita. As the Rakshasas approached, Ram was sitting in the cottage with Sita, while Lakshman guarded the doorway. Seeing the hideous man-eaters, Ram ordered Lakshmana, "Stay here with Sita while I fight these Rakshasas." Ram then called out to the Rakshasas, "We have come to this forest at the request of the Rishis, who seek our protection from your atrocities. We are living a life of austerity, eating only fruits and roots. Why have you come here to disturb us? Turn back now, if you at all value your lives." Surprised at being challenged so courageously, the Rakshasas stared at Ram with blood-red eyes, saying, "Our master Khara is very angry with you and has ordered us to kill you. How can you hope to fight so many of us? In a moment, we shall crush you with our weapons and you will be dead." The Rakshasas rushed at Ram with uplifted weapons. However, with 14 arrows, Ram cut their weapons to pieces. With 14 more, he pierced their hearts. Thus, like trees whose trunks had been severed, the Rakshasas fell to the ground dead, bathed in their own blood. Shaking with fear, Shnubaka fled back to her brother's abode and informed him of the slaughter. "You tried to comfort me by sending these Rakshasas to kill Ram and Lakshmana, but they would kill all the Rakshasas with ease. Now you must go yourself to kill Ram and Lakshman. If you do not gain revenge for what they have done to me, then I will give up my life out of shame." Saying this, Shundaka fell to the ground, swollen with grief, and began beating her belly, bursting into tears. Hearing his sister's harsh words, Khara became enraged, uttering a vow. "Give up your sorrow, my sister. I promise to kill Ram and Lakshmana this very day, so that you may drink their blood." Hearing this, Tubaka became somewhat pacified. Khara then ordered his brother Dushasan to bring his chariot and weapons and to assemble their army of 14,000 Rakshasas. Then Khara mounted his chariot and departed for the Dankaranya forest with his Rakshasa army. As the Rakshasas proceeded, dark clouds showered rain mixed with blood upon them, causing Khara's horses to fall down on the road. A vulture came and perched upon the Khara's flax standard, while a dark red aura dimmed the light of the sun. Then as Jackal howled frightfully, darkness set in, and Rahu covered the sun, although not in an eclipse. All the while, Khara's left hand trembled violently and his voice became harsh and faint. Still, despite witnessing all these harbingers of evil, Khara laughed, saying, "O Rakshasas, because of my great prowess, I do not care for any of these so-called inauspicious omens." Meanwhile, all the great demigods and rishis assembled in the sky to witness the impending battle. As the Rakshasas approached, Ram described to Lakshman the auspicious sign he had perceived. My arrows are feeling joyful, my bow is stringing with delight, and my right arm is throbbing. My dear brother, take Sita at once to a mountain cave and watch over her carefully.
Right arm or right eye? Yeah.
Right time, yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
this one is? You are of official.
As the Rakshasas proceeded, dark clouds showered rain, mixed with blood upon them, causing Khara's horses to fall down on the road. A vulture came and perched upon Khara's flag standard, while a dark red aura dimmed the light of the sun. Then as jackals howled frightfully, darkness set in and Rahu covered the sun. Although not in an eclipse, all the while Khara's left arm trembled violently, and his voice became hoarse and faint. Still, despite witnessing all these harbingers of evil, Khar laughed and said, O Rakshasas, because of my great prowess, I do not care for any of these so-called inauspicious omens. Meanwhile, all the great demigods and rishis assembled in the sky to witness the impending battle. As the Rakshasas approached, Ram described to Lakshman the auspicious signs he had perceived. My arrows are feeling joyful, my bow is stringing with delight, and my right arm is throbbing. My dear brother, take Sita at once to a mountain cave and watch over her carefully while I massacre these Rakshasas. After Lakshmana and Sita had departed, Ram put on his suit of blazing golden armor. Then, when the Rakshasas advanced up toward him, while roaring ferociously, Ram summoned his all-devouring anger and assumed a dreadful form. As the Rakshasas' army surrounded Ram, Khara released 1,000 arrows, while other Rakshasas showered innumerable weapons such as clubs, spears, swords, and axes. Ram, however, easily cut those weapons to pieces with his arrows. Even though deeply cut and bleeding, he appeared not to feel any pain. Ram then released thousands of arrows at the Rakshasas, cutting off their bows, flags, shields, armor, and bodily limbs. Indeed, many of the Rakshasas fell down dead. Along with their elephants and horses, their chariots smashed to pieces. At that, the Rakshasas became further enraged and countered by showering their weapons upon Ram in even greater profusion. Ram, however, again cut their weapons to pieces with his arrows, killed many Rakshasas by piercing their hearts. He severed many of their grotesque heads from their gigantic trunks. Upon seeing this, the remaining Rakshasas fled in fear to the shelter of Khara. In great anger, Dushasan suddenly rushed at Ram. Many Rakshasas followed him, encouraged by his valor. In response, Ram took up the best of Gandharva weapons. Thus, from his bow came many thousands of arrows, which soon covered the sun, engulfing the battle scene in darkness. From those arrows, thousands of Rakshasas were cut to pieces and their dismembered corpses collected in tall heaps. Dushasan then rallied his army, urging the remaining 5,000 Rakshasas to attack Ram. In the fight that ensued, Dushasan fought heroically, and when Ram saw that the brother of Khara successfully counteracted his arrows, he became extremely angry. Taking up a blazing bow, Ram cut Dushasan's bow in half. Then with 4 more arrows, he killed the Rakshasa horses. With another arrow, Ram severed the head of Dushasan's driver, and with the 3 more arrows, pierced the Rakshas's chest. Although in great pain, Dushasan jumped down from his disabled chariot and took up a spiked club. He then rushed headlong toward Ram, intent on killing him. However, with just 2 arrows, Ram quickly severed Dushasan's arms. And then, firing 1 more, he killed the terrible Rakshasa. Seeing Dushasan fall, the remainder of his army rushed toward Ram, seeking revenge. Working at the speed of mind, Ram released 5,000 arrows in a steady stream, like so many blazing meteors. Thus the 5,000 Rakshasa soldiers soon lay slaughtered on the ground. Seeing this great massacre, Khara ordered his few remaining soldiers to attack. Ram, however, made a short work on them. Thus, the Dankaranya forest became a sea of reddish mud from blood of the 14,000 slain Rakshasas, with only Khar and Trishura remaining alive. As Khar prepared to attack Ram, his general Trishura begged him for permission to fight first. Khar agreed, and thus the 300 Rakshasa came toward Ram, showering him with arrows. When some of the arrows pierced Ram's forehead, Ram became enraged and quickly retaliated by killing the Trishura's horses and driver and knocking down his flag. Then, as Trishura attempted to jump down from his disabled chariot, Ram pierced his heart with a fiery arrow and cut his 3 heads off from the 3 more. Hera rallied with the few remaining Rakshasas that had survived and fearfully attacked Ram. During the fierce duel that ensued, the streams of arrows so completely covered the sky that the sun became invisible. Then, bringing his chariot close by, Khar dexterously cut Ram's bow in 2. Next, Khar released 1,000 arrows that shattered Ram's armor, which fell to the ground in pieces. Although his arms were deeply cut, Ram calmly strung the bow of Lord Vishnu. Ram then cut down Khara's emblem, but the Rakshasa retaliated with 4 arrows that bathed Ram in his own blood. Becoming more enraged, Ram quickly released 6 arrows that pierced Khara's head, arms, and chest. Then, with 13 more, Ram killed Khara's 4 horses, severed the driver's head, cut off his opponent's bow, and smashed his chariot. The last arrow, which appeared as dazzling as lightning, pierced the Khara's chest, making him fall back senseless. Khara, however, quickly recovered and jumped down from his ruined chariot. Then he stood before Ram, club in hand. Ram chastised him, saying, "You cruel and sinful Rakshasa, since you have dedicated your life to giving pain to others, you are thoroughly condemned. To punish you, I shall now strike off your head this very hour." This merely enraged Khara further. He screamed at Ram, "You vile wretch! Those who are actually heroes do not brag about their prowess." Khara hurled his gigantic mace at Ram. The blazing club burned to ashes all the trees and bushes that stood in the path. However, Ram's arrow quickly broke the club to pieces as it soared through the air. Then the two again exchanged harsh words, and Khara, looking for a weapon to attack Ram with, uprooted a huge tree. Whirling it around and around, Khara released the tree at Ram, shouting, "You are killed!" Ram, however, easily cut the trees to pieces. Then, desiring to end the battle, Ram released 1,000 arrows, with blood flowing from nearly every pore of his body. Khara made a final rush toward Ram. As he did, Ram selected a blazing arrow which entered Khara's chest and burst into flames. Finally, the Rakshasa fell to the ground dead. The demigods became overjoyed witnessing Ram's victory from their airplanes in the sky. As they beat on drums and showered flowers, the demigods glorified Ram for his astonishing feat of killing all the Rakshasas single-handedly in such a short time. Great rishis headed by Agastya appeared before Ram and said, "When Indra previously visited Sabharanga, it was to arrange for your killing these Rakshasas. That is why the rishi advised you to dwell in this region." Thereafter, Sita and Lakshmana came out of the cave and they were sheltered in. And upon seeing Ram safe and sound, Sita ran to embrace him with great joy. One Rakshasa named Akampana, who had somehow escaped the massacre, went to Ravana's abode in Lanka and informed Ravan of the death of his 2 brothers. Upon hearing the news, Ravan became red with rage, shouting, "Who dares to offend me in this way? thinking about his own death. No one can save him now, not even Indra, Yamraj, or Vishnu. Tell me at once, who has dared to make me so angry? Fearful of Ravan's wrath, Akampana begged Ravan, my dear Lord, I shall gladly answer your questions. However, please promise that you will not become angry toward me for my truthful speech. Thus, after gaining Ravana's assurance, Akampana explained, the 14,000 Rakshasas, including your two brothers, were killed by a human being named Ram, the son of King Dashratha. Ravan then inquired, was this Ram accompanied by all the demigods? Akampana replied, oh no, my lord, this Ram killed all the Rakshasas single-handed, without even taking help from his younger brother. Indeed, Ram is so powerful that he accomplished this awesome task in a very short time, less than 2 hours. No one could stand before Ram. When he became great, it appeared as if the entire universe would be destroyed. Ravan angrily declared, I shall go to Janasthana at once and kill this Ram and Lakshman. Then we will see what kind of heroes they really are. But Akampana and warned Ravana, please do not act hastily, underestimating the power of Ram. He is capable of annihilating the entire universe and again recreating it. Even if the demigods and demons all combined together, I do not think they could kill Ram. Therefore, O Lord, do not consider attacking him with force. There is, however, another way that I think, the means for Ram's death. The wife of Ram, named Sita, is uncomparably beautiful, with a face that is lovelier and fairer than thousands of moons. Indeed, she is the very emblem of feminine attractiveness and the perfection of womanly chastity and behavior. I think that without Sita, Ram could no longer bear to live. Therefore, I suggest that you go to kidnap her. Ram instantly liked this idea, and after reflecting momentarily, he responded, your suggestion is brilliant. I shall go to Panchvati tomorrow on my chariot and carry Sita away by force with great pleasure. After dismissing Akampana, Ravan went to the nearby hermitage of Tataka's sons Maricha. After receiving Ravan with great respect and washing his feet, Maricha inquired, O Lord of the Rakshasas, your surprise visit here fills my mind with misgiving. I know that you would not have come personally unless the matter were most important. Ravan replied, you are certainly correct. A human being named Ram has completely annihilated my army of Rakshasas posted at Janasthan. Ram's brother Lakshmana has disfigured my sister Shubhnaka, causing Khara and Dushasan to retaliate. I considered my two brothers invincible, but they have been slain along with all their soldiers. I need your help, Maricha, because I plan to kidnap Ram's wife, Sita. In great shock and horror, Maricha responded, whoever has given you this idea is the worst enemy in the guise of a friend. O Ravan, if you try to carry out this foolish plan, it will only result in your destruction. For Ram has inconceivable prowess on the level of Lord Vishnu himself. Ram is like a fathomless ocean. Crocodiles are his bows and whirlpools are his mighty arms. The releasing of his arrows is like the constant flowing of waves. The span of the ocean from the shore to shore is the battlefield wherein his enemies drown. O King of Rakshasas, it would be far better for you to control your wrath and return to Lanka. Enjoy yourself there along with your wife and let Ram enjoy with his wife in the Dankaranya forest. Otherwise, you will bring disaster down upon your own head. Taking Maricha's advice, Ravan returned to his magnificent palace at Lanka. But meanwhile, Snubrakha, having witnessed the slaughter of all the Rakshasas at Jarasan, went to Lanka to see her brother Ravan. Ravan had 10 heads and 20 arms, and his body bore many scars from former conflicts, including those inflicted by Lord Vishnu's Sudarshan Chakra. Once Ravan had attacked Bhogavati, the capital of the Nagas, after defeating the serpents Vasuki and Taksha, he took away the Taksha's wife by force. After conquering Kuvera, Ravan took possession of his Puspaka chariot. Then simply out then simply out of spite, he destroyed some of the heavenly gardens. Long ago, Ravan had performed severe austerities, and at the end of 10,000 years, he began offering his 10 heads in sacrifice to Lord Brahma. Being pleased with Ravan, Lord Brahma awarded him immunity from death at the hands of all living creatures except human beings. After receiving this benediction, the puffed up Ravan began killing Brahmanas and disrupting their sacrifices. Thus he became a thorn in the side of the demigods, who fervently prayed to Lord Vishnu for his destruction. Ravan was seated on an ornate golden throne within his 7-story palace when Puja came into his presence and revealed her disfigured face. Greatly agitated, she said, "My dear brother, are you so absorbed in sense gratification that you fail to recognize the grave danger at hand? When the king is only interested in his own vulgar enjoyment and doesn't pay attention to state affairs, everyone come to despise him. Haven't your spies reported how Ram single-handedly slaughtered 14,000 Rakshasas at Janasthana, including your two brothers? You are a useless king, and I predict that you will not remain on the throne for long." Ravan became inflamed by the protruding from his sister, especially as she did it in front of his ministers. Barely controlling his anger, he inquired from her, "Who is this Ram, and what is his strength? Was it he that deformed you like this? Speak now, for I want to know everything." Shubhaka replied, "With his long, powerful arms and large eyes shaped like lotus petals, Ram appears to be the god of love himself. His complexion was a dark greenish blue hue, and he is strongly built like a lion. His bow is as effulgent as a rainbow, and when he stretches it to full length, he shoots golden arrows that resemble venomous snakes, releasing them so fast that you can't tell whether he is pulling out the arrow or shooting it. Although he is the most beautiful, he has dressed himself in a tree bark and deer skin and keeps mated hair. He leads the entire army of Rakshasas as Janasthana to the volley of arrows. He has such exceptional strength that he has even subdued Khara and Sushasan. I am sure he could divert the current of a river or bring down the stars and planets from the heavens. Ram's younger brother is Lakshman, and he was the one who cut off my nose and ears under his elder brother's instruction. The wife of Ram is Sita, and she is exactly like the goddess of fortune. She has large dark eyes, and the beauty of her face surpasses out of many, many moons. Her smooth skin is the color of molten golden, and her slim waist, graceful hips, and full breast make her incomparably beautiful. O Ravan, there is no other woman like Sita. If you were to see her, you would fall madly in love, for she would make a perfect wife for you. I am intended to capture her to bring to you, but instead I was disfigured by Lakshmana. Now, my dear brother, you should go and kidnap Sita. That is, if you truly are as powerful a hero as you think." When he heard about the lovely Sita, Ravan became fully determined to possess her. He again mounted his chariot and after crossing the sea went to the ashram of Maricha, who was dressed like a rishi. Engaged in a performing austerities, Maricha inquired from Ravana respectfully, O king, what is the reason for your early return to my residence? Ravana replied, after hearing Ram slaughtering the Rakshasas at Janasthana, I have not found a moment's peace. I have therefore made my mind to kidnap Sita, and I want you to help me. To this end, I have devised a very clever plan. I want you to take the form of a golden deer, flecked with silver spots. Afterwards, go out into the forest and play in front of Sita. She will surely become captivated by such a wonderful creature and desire to have it as her pet. After you prance playfully before her, lead Ram astray. Once you have done this, I will come and kidnap Sita, taking her back to Lanka. Thereafter, when Ram becomes aggrieved and emaciated due to his separation from his beloved wife, I will easily be able to slay him. Upon hearing the name of Ram, Maricha became greatly fearful. His mouth dried up and staring with unblinking eyes, Maricha addressed Ravan with folded hands. O Lord, if you try to carry out this plan, it surely will cause the destruction of all the Rakshasas and your kingdom of Lanka. Because of your lusty nature and ignorance of Ram's service, you are foolishly rushing toward your own doom. Please hear from me of Ram's supreme potency before you act blindly and bring about your own destruction. Previously, I used to wander about the earth, club in hand, feeling very proud of my superhuman strength. I subsided upon the flesh of rishis in the Dandkaranya forest. Out of fear, Vishwamitra approached King Dashrath to solicit Ram's help to participate in his sacrificial performances. Thereafter, while Ram guarded Vishwamitra's sacrificial arena, I ignorantly went there with the intention of disrupting the proceedings. However, with just one arrow, Ram hurled me 800 miles into the ocean and then killed the other Rakshasas accompanying me. When I regained consciousness, having thus been spared by Ram, I returned to Lanka, but was still not cured of my false pride. Taking the form of a large carnivorous stag with a flaming tongue, I returned to the Dandakaranya forest and roamed about, drinking the blood of the rishis. As it happened, I again came upon Ram, who was wandering in the Dandakaranya forest with Lakshmana and Sita. With a bitter memory of my past defeat in my mind, and considering how Ram had accepted a life of renunciation, I was determined to gain revenge. However, when I rushed at him, Ram released his 3 arrows. My 2 companions were killed instantly, and I fled for my life. I think my life was saved only because Ram's arrow do not kill one who flees from the battlefield. Ever since that time, I have been consumed with fear of Ram. As a result, my inclination for violence and fighting has vanished. Having given up all malice toward others, I have taken to an ascetic life of yoga practice. However, I have failed to obtain peace of mind, or however I happen to glance upon a tree, I think that it is Ram, dressed in a tree bark. Thus the entire forest appears to have become transformed into innumerable Rams. Because of this, whenever I look anywhere, I become terrified. Sometimes I see Ram in my dreams, and I immediately wake up, my heart thumping in terror. Indeed, I have become so afraid of Ram that whenever I hear the word beginning with the letter R, Ra, Ratha or Ratna, my heart trembles with fear. O king, for your own welfare as well as for mine, I advise you to forget kidnapping Sita. Aside from fearing Ram, why should you perform such a sinful act? There is no offense more punishable than the abduction of another's wife. Remain satisfied with your thousands of wives and save your dignity, fortune, kingdom, and life itself. Having listened patiently, Ravan replied, now you must listen, Maricha. I did not come for your advice. I came to obtain your help in executing my plan to kidnap Sita. As my minister, it is your duty to give advice only when asked and to obey my orders without question. I have made up my mind, so nothing can deter me. I want you to take the form of a deer to charm Sita. Then, when she begs Ram to capture you, lead him deep into the forest and call out, "Oh Sita! Oh Lakshmana!" When he thinks that his brother is in difficulty, Lakshman will leave Sita aside to go and help him. Just perform this small service, and in return, I will reward you with half of my kingdom. However, if you refuse, then I shall kill you myself this very day. It is your choice. You may take certain death at my hands or possible death at the hand of Ram. Make up your mind. Maricha, however, boldly declared, flatterers are quite easy to come by, my lord. Rare is that person who will speak unpleasant word for the benefit of others. A minister should always give good advice, even if uncalled for, especially when the king is misguided. Unfortunately, however, one who is about to die is never willing to take good advice. O king, if we carry out your plan, I am certain that both of us will end up dead. Still, I would rather die at the hands of an exalted enemy on the battlefield than be killed by you here. Therefore, let us depart at once. Ravan was pleased that Maricha saw the wisdom of his ultimatum. He embraced Maricha and they mounted Ravana's aerial chariot and departed. After flying over numerous forests, rivers, towns, and fields, they landed in the Dankaranya forest, near where Ram and Sita Lakshman were residing. Upon descending from the chariot, Maricha immediately transformed into a beautiful deer. Then, going to Ram's cottage, he began to prance playfully to and fro. Maricha's deer form had numerous jewel-like silver spots, with the tips of its horns appearing like sapphires. Its mouth appeared like a pinkish lotus flower, its tail like a rainbow, and its ear with bright blue. Indeed, the magical deer appeared to have been constructed from many varieties of valuable jewels. With a dazzling luster, the deer seemed to illuminate the entire area surrounding the cottage. Sometimes it nibbled at the grass and sometimes it frolicked among the trees. At that time, Sita was gathering flowers. Seeing her, Maricha in the form of a deer leapt, ran, crouched and turned, eager to attract her attention. All the other deer in that area fled away on catching the scent of the disguised Rakshasa. The magical deer came close to Sita and bounded in front of her. Sita became captivated with wonder and enchantment, for she had never before seen such a wonderful deer. With wide open eyes, she called out, "Oh Ram! Oh Lakshmana! Come quickly!" As Sita stood with eyes fixed, Ram and Lakshmana also beheld the magical deer. Lakshmana, however, was wary. This might be a trick, he said. The Rakshasa Marichi is known to take such animal form just to entice and waylay kings who have come to the forest to hunt. Sita interrupted Lakshmana, for her intelligence had already become diluted by watching the magical deer, created by Raksasa's mystical prowess. "Oh Ram," she said, "please catch this deer, for it has caught my fancy. Such a deer would make a lovely pet for me and provide a welcome diversion from our dreary forest existence. Please go quickly and catch this deer." I will take it back with us when we return to Ayodhya at the end of your exile. Surely it will delight Bharat and our mothers. Please, Ram, I want so much to have it play with. It is so lovely, and its smooth skin shines like the moon. Oh, my husband.
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रभाज का सत्यदान स्वामी श्रीपाद की जय। गिरिराज महाराज कृष्ण बलराम की जय। जगन्नाथ बल्देव सुता श्री गौर निताय की जय। लक्ष्मी नरसिंह देवान प्रहलाद नरसिंह देव भगवान की जय। अनंत कोटि विष्णु निताय गौर हरि प्रेम